Hi y'all, if you're new here, my name's Amanda and I'm currently a student at the University of Alabama. I just got accepted into physician assistant school though. I applied for CASPA in the 2023 cycle, so I applied last summer right before starting senior year. I didn't take a gap year, which is pretty uncommon nowadays I feel like, but I think it's definitely possible as I'll show you. And I want to go through my entire CASPA application and show you how I got into my #1 school, what my application looked like, and also tell you some things I wish I knew about applying to PA school and CASPA itself before actually applying. That would have helped a lot. So let's get into it. So as you can see, it's broken up into 4 different categories. I do want to point out that on the side it will show you your notifications right there, which is really nice. It's verified was my last notification, and I want to talk about that because no one ever told me, and sometimes the due date isn't really the due date. It has to be like 2 weeks before. Okay, so we're going to start off with personal information. First of all, you have the release statement, which is just like the agreement you have to say okay to, hit I agree and yes, and then you have to save and continue. Then you have biographic information, and this is like normal stuff, and you do have to put your birth information. And then you have contact information. You put in your address, your phone, and your email. Pretty straightforward. Then you have citizenship information, pretty standard as well. Race and ethnicity. Family information, I just added my mom and dad. Then there's a section for environmental factors, and this is a good place where you can show like underprivileged or poverty or different disadvantages you might have had. And then last, there's other information, so what language you speak, license information, academic infractions, and other pretty normal stuff until you get to the COVID-19 part, which I am really glad they had for me because I was very impacted by COVID-19. I wasn't able to get hours when I was planning on it. I was gonna try to become an EMT and then COVID hit, so I had to wait a little bit longer, so I had less hours than I wanted to. So what I said for this, if it looks like I'm looking up to the side a little bit, I'm reading it from my laptop, sorry, but I said, during the initial 2 years of my college journey, I encountered many challenges due to COVID-19 pandemic, accompanying online classes. As a result of these obstacles, I improved my time management skills by breaking down my self-paced online courses into smaller tasks and assignments. Furthermore, the restrictions imposed during this period made it incredibly difficult to find an available EMT program since most were on hold due to COVID. I had to wait until my sophomore year to secure a slot in a program, which unfortunately limited the number of hours I could dedicate to gaining hands-on experience. Due to the prolonged closure of facilities and limited opportunities, I was unable to shadow until 2022 when the situation in Delaware began to improve, which is where I was living at the time. But as you can see, I kind of tried to show strength through what happened with COVID, but also was like totally upfront with him. Like I wasn't able to get as many hours nor shadowing as I intended to because of the world being shut down. So I think it's really nice that they had that you could put stuff in there for. I did have people read over that a lot as well. So we're gonna go back to my application. We're gonna hit the next one, which is academic history. So you have high schools attended, colleges attended. Okay, so this is something really important that I did not realize until it was almost too late. Even if you transferred all your credits into a school, it doesn't mean that they're gonna send over with that school when you send your transcript to CASPA. I transferred to the University of Alabama from a Delaware community college. And I saw since my Delaware classes transferred to Alabama, like they show up in my degree for the University of Alabama, that Alabama would transfer them over. However, they did not. I had to get the Delaware one to send those as well as Alabama. And then I did take one other summer class online from Arizona State University or something random, so I also needed to send that over. And then I did take one other community college class at another one, so I had 4 different transcripts from 4 different schools to send. So just make sure anywhere you took a class you have to send it, even if you transferred it to the other school. And there's transcript entry. So this transcript entry, you do have the option, as you can see down here, to do professional transcript entry, which is where you pay them basically to do all that work for you. So I chose to do this because I thought it would be a lot of tedious work to do it myself, and I had the resources to do it, so I decided to do it. I soon regretted it because you can't really control how fast they do it. You can do it as fast as you want when you're doing it yourself, and they're supposed to get it pretty fast, but it depends on when the transcripts get to them and whatnot. So I was freaking out because I was like, I need to like submit an application to these schools, but they don't even have them in yet. Like, and then I was emailing them like, hey, can I input them myself? And they're like, yes, but we can't refund you, and it's all this work. So thankfully they got them in time. Once they got my transcript, it went really fast. I just didn't realize that like I had to send them my transcripts first, and it just took a while. As you can see, like the materials get received and then they enter it, and then you review it to make sure, like, say, hey, it's okay. And then if you want to add anything, like I was taking genetics the next semester and I wanted to make sure that was on there as like a future planned course, because that is a prerequisite for a lot of the colleges I was applying to. And then prerequisite matching, which is this transcript entry tab, and then you just finalize your data transcript, which is basically giving it like the final perfect, like a-okay. So as you can see here in the transcript entry, all these get inputted and you just have to double check to make sure they're right. You can do this yourself. I just had so many different schools that for me I was getting like confused, so I did like having this, but you can definitely easily do it yourself. And it's nice because it has prereq information, so you can see like, oh, what ones I took here matched up with what prereqs for what school. Okay, and then we have the standardized tests. All the schools I applied to only required the GRE if they required one at all. I did take the GRE twice. My score did not move at all, but I didn't really study much at all either time just because I was in a lot of classes during that time, so I did not have a ton of time. I am also pretty sure this is pretty embarrassing. I took it the second time in 2022 and I accidentally put 2021, but thankfully I think on the transcript they can see that it was like 2022 and maybe just a typo, but I felt a little bad about that. So I'm like, this is the worst time to make a typo. But I think they usually say like 300 and up on the GRE is really good. I think I got like a 295, I want to say, so it's pretty average, but I've heard a lot of times that they don't put too much weight on your GRE. It's kind of like a check off for a lot of the schools, at least that I applied to. It's more of a, did they do decent on it? Okay, that's not the main thing they're gonna focus on because there's not even medical stuff on there, I feel like. And then for the third tab, we have supporting information. So we have evaluation. This is where you have people write you letters of recommendation. You can enter a minimum of 3, so you have to enter 3 different letters, and you can do a max of 5. Some schools still only take 3, it depends on them, but I just worked on getting 3 because sometimes the schools don't even take them anyways. And honestly, I didn't have any more to add, and I felt like these people would all give me really good recommendations, so I don't think I would need any more even if there was the opportunity. So my first letter of recommendation was from a paramedic that kind of mentored me and I worked under, and I think he actually sent me his letter of recommendation when he submitted it as well. Usually you don't see it because they submit it through their own link. Like, you do not submit their letter, you just kind of invite them through CASPA and then they have to submit it through an email they get sent. But he actually sent me it and it looked amazing. And then I actually had my primary because she was a doctor that I've seen over years and she knows me very well, like personally. And I did shout out some PAs, but I asked them to write me letters of recommendation and they actually weren't allowed to, like, which I thought was weird. I'm like, well, then how am I supposed to get letters of recommendation then if these PAs that I shadowed aren't even allowed to? So thankfully I got a really good one from my primary back at home. I know she submitted an amazing one because I also saw that. And then I had one of my professors in public health, which is my major, write me one. And I know this teacher also liked me, so I know she wrote me a really nice one. And as you can see, you can create an evaluation request. So when you do this, you put in their name, last name, email, and that's how they're gonna email them, like asking them to do it and with like the link to submit it. And then you just click a few more things. I would make sure you get really good letters of recommendation because I think they really do play a big role, because when I interviewed for South College in Nashville, that's the PA school that I'm going to, the admissions person actually said that he put a lot of weight into letters of recommendation and looked at those a lot, which I think is really good because you can get more of a wholesome view of a person instead of just numbers and grades and whatnot. I'm glad I had good ones. I think that definitely helped me get the interview and then get into the school. We have experiences, so this is different healthcare experiences. So when you add an experience, this is what it looks like. So it first asks you what type of experience you want to add, and then you go through all the information. So I have like hours and hundreds of hours of volunteering experience doing different things, but I only put one in because I don't think they want to see like, oh, like I helped out an hour here and there or 20 there, because that's not really the focus of this. So I decided to add one volunteer thing right here, as you can see, which is a nonprofit that I created in high school. And then let's go back to the top. So patient care experience was being an EMT at one place, and then a teaching experience was Project Help, which was an internship through BAMA that I did, which is kind of like a health educator where we passed out health information and health resources like condoms, random things on campus. More patient care experience was another firehouse I worked at as an EMT. I did some shadowing of a neurosurgeon back at home at Christiana Care Hospital. I was a gym trainer. I had a teaching experience at an athletic club back at home where I was a gym trainer for special needs kids actually. And then I did shadowing at Christiana Care back at home, and that was a family practice PA. And then I did patient care experience of being a physical therapist tech back at home also. I did that at the end of high school. And I do want to go through and be totally transparent about my hours with you guys because I know that's harped on a lot. I do think it's really important. And I think that is probably why I didn't get into some of the schools that I applied to, just because a lot of people are either nurses or take gap years and have a lot more healthcare experience, and especially being part of the COVID college generation, I missed out on a year or two. But for EMT, I believe I submitted 700 hours, and then being a PT tech, another like 400. So I had over 1,000 direct patient care hours, which is the big thing for applying to PA school. That's probably the most important, I would say. For shadowing hours, I think I had 110 in total, and those are the two main like hours people count. I would definitely say focus more on direct patient care because one, that will teach you more. I believe they look at that a lot more on applications. And then we have achievements. So this one kind of confused me at first, but I kind of watched other people's YouTube videos and got help from other people, and I put President's List, which is when you get a 4.0 and above at the University of Alabama. And then I got a full tuition scholarship for Bama, so I also put that. Did very competitive figure skating, and I'm a double gold medalist for United States figure skating, so I also put that because I think that shows a little bit something different, makes you stick out. Okay, and then license and certifications. I obviously have my EMT license on there, BLS provider, which is the healthcare workers version of a CPR class, AED, everything like that. So this is where you put your personal statement. As you can see, it cannot exceed 5,000 characters. This was something I worked on before I started applying. After I wrote it, I sent it out to a bunch of people to spell check, people who were already in PA school to make sure it sounded good. And I really focused on what being a competitive figure skater taught me, and also my experience with that. Having a back injury, I got to see every medical provider under the sun, learning about being a PA and being able to relate to people's pain in that way because I've been through it myself, and also tying that into my love for special needs and how I've always wanted to help them, and this really gives me the best way that I can do that. I made it sound a lot better, thought it out, wrote it. You can read the first paragraph if you want, but I do think it came out really good, not to toot my own horn, and a lot of other people helped me spell check, make sure it sounded good and everything. And then you have memberships. I opted out to not put any memberships just because I'm not part of any memberships. Like, this is where you put if you're part of like some PA, is it the APA? I forget. But it's like the PA, like the national PA thing or whatever. I am part of like a club that's like the pre-PA society at Bama, but that's not where you put this. This is more like national and big ones, which I don't really think matters that much. Okay, and then we have program material. This is where when you add schools, they all show up here. So as you can see, like Duke, I applied here. It gives you all their deadlines. Okay, so on all these schools, please do this because this almost killed me. What kind of deadline definition they have. There's like green, blue, red, all these colors that I never knew about mean different things. So for instance, Duke has a green deadline, which means the application needs to be verified by the deadline, which I believe your application can take around 2 weeks. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's around 2 weeks. Get verified once you submit it to CASPA, be like final thing, click it, like submit it to CASPA. They need to verify it. The deadline's September 1st. If you on September 1st click submit, Duke will likely not take your application or get it because the application needs to be verified through CASPA. So you really need to aim to at least apply by August, send it over. That way your application has time to get verified in order to get to them. Really confusing, right? It's a stupid process in my opinion, but you need to be very careful of that. Okay, and then George Fox University. This one actually, fun fact, I ended up having to pull my application from this one after paying and everything, which is really awful. But learn from me because this one wanted you to be graduated before the spring of 2024 for some reason, and I wasn't. I missed that in the fine print. Totally my fault. Okay, so down here it says it's an orange deadline, which means application, transcripts, and at least 2 references received by deadline. So by September 1st, your transcripts, at least 2 references, and your application needs to be to them. So I guess your application does not need to be verified by that time, but honestly, just making sure you're always applying earlier than the deadline. As you can see, different schools have different questions. So if you previously applied to this, I've not. And then like, how'd you find out about the school? Upload documents. I uploaded my 2 license. And then prerequisites. This is where your prerequisites that you match show up. Can't remember what Duke had. They had some questions, just criminal background, prerequisites again. And then Lipscomb, another one I ended up having to pull my application from. Fun fact, after paying again. I know. Because they would not take my COVID online classes. So up north, they were more strict on COVID classes. So up north, you were online in college much longer than you were in the south. And they said, no, we're not taking your prerequisites because they're online. And I was like, but it was during COVID. And they said, that's past our like COVID definition deadline, like classes will take or whatever. So that really sucked. Okay, so like here in bold, they have rolling admissions, so your application has to be verified by CASPA by December 1st. So you have to really submit your application to CASPA before December 1st, at least by November, because it takes CASPA a little bit to verify it and let the school know that they've verified your application. So as you can see, another green deadline. See what questions they had, who I shadowed, how many hours I have of shadowing, criminal background, most important extracurricular activities. This one was really weird because I could only put 60 words, so I could really only put like EMT volunteering. And then this is where they had me put like online courses, and then that's where they were like, well, that doesn't count. And I'm like, okay. My sister actually goes there, fun fact. And then prerequisites matched up. This is Samford. See their application. They have a blue. See, there's so many different colors. Like, what is this? Just like have everyone the same. But no, PA schools aren't like that for some reason. So you just need to submit your application by the deadline. So by August 1st, it just needs to be submitted. So you don't have to worry about being verified beforehand, but still, as I said, just try to apply early always. What motivated you? Tell us about your personal clinical experience, how you fit in, yada yada yada. We have South College, so this is the Asheville location, and they have orange. So your application, transcripts, and at least 2 references need to be sent to them. So your application does not need to be verified by CASPA, I guess, by January 15th. Questions, we had very basic ones. See, it's weird because like some schools have like none and some have you write like paragraph. Okay, we have another South College, which is Atlanta. This one's a blue application. So application just needs to be submitted by the deadline. Once again, very regular questions. We've got Knoxville, same thing, blue. We have Nashville, which is the one I actually am going to. One is a blue application deadline, so you just need to submit your application by the deadline. So the deadline is until March 1st. I submitted mine probably around September 2023. And rolling admissions means you usually want to apply earlier if you can. I mean, honestly, it's not the end of the world. They didn't interview me until February when I applied in September. So I don't know if I would have gotten it sooner if I would have applied in April, but I know they do interviews pretty much every month. So it's not like, oh, if you like submit in February, you might not get it. I think they still have limited seats. We've got questions. This one does have a documents section. I didn't add any. We got UAB, which is just submit by the deadline. Questions. Barely any. We have Long Island University, which I did get an interview for. Green, application verified by deadline, so you really need to submit it before January 15th in order to get it verified in time. Questions, pretty much nothing again. Documents. So this one was interesting. They let you upload a resume, which was unlike any other one I applied to. So I made a medical resume, had people check over that too, of course. So those are all the ones that I applied to. As you can see, it's pretty easy to move through CASPA. This is where you can obviously add programs. You can just search it pretty easily. This is where you submit your application. It will tell you like the deadline, if you paid for it, different things like that. This is where you can check your status. CASPA gives all the schools your transcripts, so it's nice. You only have to send your transcripts to CASPA in order to apply, and they'll do it to all the individual ones. Evaluations, if they've arrived, so as you can see, there's different states. Like you requested them, they haven't accepted yet. When they accept, and then when they complete it, basically submit it to CASPA. Standardized tests, this shows you, so your GRE you do have to send to schools specifically. All schools will have like a GRE number input, and that's how you send it to them. And you can see here they accepted it, so that means they got it. And here you can see is your application status. This is when you're looking to see, am I verified yet? Like I submitted my application, but has CASPA verified it yet? Which you need to make sure to do in time for a lot of these schools. It also shows your evaluation. Oh, my grades aren't on here. At Bama, it rounded up to a 4.0, but I think I technically had 3.98, so they don't round up like a lot of universities do. Like when I go to my university website to see what my overall GPA is, it says 4.0, but CASPA does not do that. So I had a 3.98, which is basically still a perfect GPA, which I think really helped. I did not take orgo or biochemistry or too many extra classes that some people like to take or some schools require. I had like a whole list of schools and what they required, and a lot of them I liked, so I was like, how am I going to narrow this down? And I was like, well, if I don't have to take orgo, like that sounds good. I'll just take the ones that don't need orgo and apply to those, since I needed to narrow down the list somehow because I can't apply to 30 schools. So yeah, I would say it was a pretty smooth process. Like it was a lot less worse than I thought it was going to be. People like overhype it and make it sound so dramatic, like it's so much work, and I wouldn't say it is. The worst part for me personally was having to find out about the green, red, and blue application deadlines, and I was like freaking out because I was like near the deadline for some, and I was like submitting it, I'm like, it might not get verified in time because I didn't know it was supposed to be like verified beforehand. So I would just watch out for that. Definitely just try to stay ahead, and don't worry, you've got this. I'll be taking you through my physician assistant student and career journey as well. But I love y'all. XOXO.